very much appreciate you being here. There is a lot to get into, so uh, let's get right into it. Sierra, I saw, around the halfway point, last year, around the summer of last year, I noticed you shifting very heavily towards LLM and local LLM specifically, content you're putting out and educational resources and sharing what you're building every single day. Um, can you give us your LLM origin story, how you were first exposed to it and what the aha moment was for you into building your own local setups in the manner that you are now?
I remember we had this. Yeah, we were on a podcast last year, and we had a very similar question, and I think it stays the same for me. So I got into this really because I like whatever allows me to do more stuff without needing other people. Like that's the main thing. Is like you don't have a dependency on other people. You can do your finances with crypto. You can do business in general with AI, and that's been like my main. That's what draws me into it. Uh, then, in terms of my first aha moment, I remember when I was 13 and like on these like websites that had some old, version of an AI chatbot that was a lot more brittle, and you can have a conversation with it maybe for like 2 minutes before it collapses into meaninglessness. And I think like that, that was a very sci-fi moment for me. And again, when Dolly went public in 2022, I think it was sometime in the summer of 2022. As soon as I saw it, like immediately I knew we're going to have people that are working on these marketplaces that don't know how to actually do a specific service, that are going to be selling it anyway because they can just pump it out for nearly free. And that was kind of like stuck in my head. And I don't know if you remember, but the Dolly memes, they went from like non-existent to all over the place for weeks or months at a time in 2022. Uh, that was very interesting time, and yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Definitely. And was there a moment more recently that sort of inspired you to lean in as heavy as you are? I would say I don't know, and perhaps in my limited scope, but I don't know of anyone that is putting out more useful content that's relevant to the day-to-day developer, someone who even not developer, but someone who's looking to leverage and utilize these tools. Um, was there a moment more recently? And if not, it's okay. Uh, but I noticed
Yeah,
at least I noticed
for
that there's
sure. I mean,
a shift.
can you imagine how much of your work, like day to day, is you could just automate it very, very easily. Most of our work is not actually even thinking or coding. It's like look at your emails, take actions, pay bills, set up like AWS keys. It's just like very repetitive stuff that the LLMs, they know how to do it nearly perfectly. And I think that one of the most poignant moments was this Claude Chrome extension that they released sometime like last year. It was at the beginning, it was like research only. They said they're only going to release it to about 1,000 users. I was one of the main, like the 1,000 users that got it in the first wave, and I was using it every day. And I just like literally anything that I can think of. Okay, go get me all these images from this site, and it'll just crunch there for hours, like downloading images for me, or reorganizing my emails. I never had a more organized email than since I had that. And I look around at my colleagues, like my coworkers at the time, or my peers, and generally they have not really, like, it hasn't clicked for most people what this means for us, right? And I think that's kind of what I'm trying to help with. Is this is not like some like crazy sci-fi thing. It's just a technology that is very useful, that could be harnessed in many different ways, and I want to help educate people on that. Um, because I think we're really lacking that. There's like this whole mystical thing around it that isn't true. That it's like some complicated topic, which also isn't true.
I think it's very important work, like the demystification and putting these tools in the hands of people who are perhaps less technical or have less experience in navigating these waters. It can certainly be intimidating. I suspect it is rather. It's intimidating for me. Um, so the type of content that you're putting out is like it's an invaluable resource. And I'm looking at the chat here, and you certainly have a lot of supporters of people who are very appreciative of the content that you're putting out. Uh, there was, and this might lead comfortably into a small demo of what you are running, but this, I'm seeing that you generated in 1 week 500 million tokens as you run long processes overnight and sometimes longer. Is that still the record? 500 million tokens in a week, or has that been eclipsed since then?
That has been so eclipsed. I'm going to pull up like I think month this month just on Codex I have done 20 billion tokens, 18 billion tokens, and in one day I got 3.6 billion just on Codex. And this is I use all of them. Like I use actively day to day, constantly running Claude Max, Codex, and all of the Chinese models. I have a subscription with each one of them, and they're all running all the time, like to some degree or another. So I think my record is around like maybe 5 billion tokens right now, but it's spread
Wow.
over like a lot of different apps.
So if you can take us through perhaps the introduction level of what you have running locally, why it's running locally, the sort of the timeframes of these jobs, and what you do to. Oh, I'm sorry, Václav. I didn't mean to do that like that. Uh, uh, how, like, maybe like the introduction level of how and why these jobs are running, and the setup, to the degree that um, I say, like, to an introductory degree, what you have running locally. And Václav, you should be able to unmute now.
Yeah, I can share my screen, but I wanted to check if either of you have anything to say while I.
No, I just wanted to I had almost not even funny comment, but I feel really lame for not burning almost any tokens compared to this. It's just I thought I'm doing a lot with agents, but apparently I'm just a noob.
Well, I don't know. Like there's been a lot of talk about whether this is like a form of an addiction or not, which makes sense, right? I mean, most of the stuff that I'm doing here is purposeless. It just gets tossed into the trash. But the ability to do it is something that is incredible for me because, yeah, like right now they just crashed my computer over there. So I have I don't know if you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, we see it.
So this is what it looks like all day, every day. I have 3 panes, give or take, like 3 windows, and each window has a bunch of these running at the same time. They're typically labeled, so I can more easily access them. I'm using mostly Codex, the Codex app, the Codex CLI, and then GPT 5.4, the model to do research. And then I use a bunch of like some of them. Sometimes I use the Chinese models. Today I've been using Claude because I ran out of a lot. Like I ran out of the GPT usage, and I have a bunch of panes that are doing this. And then sometime, yeah, this one is like running in Figma, so it controls Figma and it can copy websites for me. So like go on a website, view the HTML, and then port it into Figma step by step, and then you can like make changes to it, like change the colors and like have the model do all this stuff. And then I have a code editor typically, like if I'm contributing to something that is not just for me, like I'm contributing to some open source public repo, I need to see all the code and understand what it's doing. And for that, like I need an IDE typically. And I use Zed, which has been very nice because it lets me, it has like all the AI stuff built into it. It's very clean. It's formant, and I need the diff viewer. And yeah, I mean, and then it also has this like window thing. So you can have, like, I'll open another project, this, and now I have like 2 projects open in the same window. So I can go between them pretty easily. And this stuff helps because, like, the reason you do this is because when you're interacting with the LLM, you basically give it a task, and you're just stuck for an hour waiting for it to finish. Typically, both Claude and GPT run for at least 20 minutes right now. So the way you take advantage of that is by parallelizing your work. So one is running, you run like 4 others in one pane, and then go to another one, you run 4 others. And then the cost becomes how quickly can you jump between different like contexts as a person, right? Like how, when I open here, do I remember what this one is doing versus this one? And that becomes increasingly difficult to manage. This is not local stuff, but this is right now, all of them are doing research on on my like local GPU node. Some of them are quantizing, some of them are pruning models, some of them are trying to test like how we can get CPU offloading to be faster. One of them is porting in like a new KV cache quantization method from Google onto VLM. And so, like, if you ask me what I understand of what's going on here, almost nothing on the deep level. But on the surface level, I understand that this attention mechanism reduces the amount of gigabytes needed for the KV cache by doing some like geometric trick. And then I need to implement that into VLM using VLM's adapter system. So any software like that gets big has some form of adapter system. Okay, sorry, somebody was trying to call me. You have like an adapter system of how you interact with the VLM attention, like all this stuff that, again, goes beyond my level of understanding. But I know I have to port this thing from here into this shape here, and then I need to validate that somehow this solution is actually functional. Because what these things will do to you is say that you actually did something right, fake the numbers, right? And then it's like, if you don't take the time to actually validate everything they're saying, you're going to embarrass yourself, right? You're going to go and say to someone like, this is done, when it's really not, or it's done in a super sloppy, nasty way that, screws over the reviewer. So I know we went a bit off topic. Does this at least answer some of your question?
No,
I mean, I want to comment on this. I completely see that. But again, as I said, I just basically run 1 or 2 tasks in parallel. I do it through OpenClaw agent called Jimmy. So just basically talk to Jimmy, and then Jimmy schedules these Cloud Code executions, and then verifies and cross references and stuff like that. But I 100% agree that this validation step is extremely necessary, because I'm always amazed how intelligent stuff these models produce, and at the same time can do stupid shit that makes no sense, that like nobody would ever do, nobody sane would ever do. And so they modify super complex software, and then at the end they would just be like, oh yeah, and by the way, this is completely wrong, so I just deleted it, or something like that, right? So yeah, this is it's so weird. Like, if you talk to a normal person that does not do what you do, right? They're just like, this is like a sci-fi movie, but then there is so much context you have to keep in your head that it's a questionable how much productivity you actually gain. You can do different things and you can do them fast, but at the same time there is so much load on your mind that sometimes I question whether it's actually improvement or not.
Well,
that's it.
Okay. Go ahead, please. Yeah.
No, I would say, how do you keep things compartmentalized, context switching? I can barely do it between 3 Claude projects. How are you doing it with 18 windows?
So I can like give the what I think is the applicable, what you need to apply for this to actually work is, this doesn't work on projects that are like not greenfield. If something is not like a fresh repo, then if you just add a bunch of agents to it, even one, you're most likely going to have to focus on it for way longer than if you're starting fresh repos. So like fresh ideas from scratch are much easier for the models to implement because they don't have to read any code. They can just generate, right? Or they have to read like scopes and stuff that isn't sensitive to changes. So that's one thing. Another is that typically, like if you see 8 panes open at the same time, it doesn't mean it's 8 separate projects. It could be one project and you're just tackling like 8 very obvious parts of it. One thing I like to do is have, instead of having one, so if it's a new project or if it's like a new feature on the front end, I'll spawn like 3 agents. Each one of them will get the same exact task, and I will basically cherry pick what I like from the results of each, and then basically get a master thread and have it pull like what I like from this one versus this one, and reapply it in a way that's more organized. So like there's this like general thing of distillation with them. So what I mean by distillation is they create so much junk, right? If you're asking for a new feature and it slaps you with 3,000 lines of code added to your code base, is it actually necessary to have 3,000 lines of code? Or can this same solution be boiled down to like 100 lines of code? And so that is a question that you don't even have to think about so much, because if you just tell them, take a second pass at this and get it down to like half the lines of code, it'll do it. It'll go for an hour. It'll come back with the same thing in half the lines of code. So you can have 4 sessions like this that are doing this like very brain dead thing of like just reduce the amount of code that you're writing. So you don't actually have to understand or think about it too much. Then there's like, how much do you guys use LLMs for, like outside of coding?
Rather extensively for almost anything at this point, planning or research or otherwise, personally.
Yeah, but same. I tried a bunch of things. The latest one was pretty cool. I'm coming to ETH Prague and ETH Cluj, and those are 2 different cities, 2 different countries. So I just gave the AI agent task to plan it for me, and it picked the flights. It went through booking, looked at the reviews, looked at the price brackets and this distance from the venue and things like that, and pick the top picks and things like that. So that was super useful.
Yeah, the reason I mention this is I think a lot of people don't realize how much they can do. So I basically do everything in my life through these agents now. Like if I want to go get a haircut, I just say go on Google Maps, find my barber, fill out the form, and then just document somewhere that you did that. And that like that's pretty much it. It doesn't, and they can do anything. I've had them shop for me. So OpenClaw specifically with GPT 5.4, I just gave it. I told it to go make an account on the local. I really don't know what it's called. Is this my screen, your screen? Sorry.
I did that. Don't worry.
Okay. Let me double check that I have my screen shared. And do you guys see my screen by any chance?
Yep.
Yeah. So I kind of lost my train of thought there, but I just wanted to make sure that this is on. But yeah, they could do practically anything, and that's what's really interesting. And I don't think most people have caught on to that, and they're still like just approaching it either as like this oracle. You go talk to it and you get information, or they use it for like coding, but very localized. But you can imagine how many things in your life would be made better if you could point some intelligence at it, like some messes, like all the documents you've ever had to deal with the government. You can take all of that, take pictures of it, hand it to an agent, and have it like view and organize everything for you, and tag things to help you, so that next time you have like some government question, you can just pull in whatever you want. And even really, really stupid models can do this. My X has grown a lot, and I would credit this for just me paying a lot of attention to everything that's happening. So I installed all my Twitter data. I do this like every 3 months, and I put a rag over it, and I just ask a model like, what time of the day do I post? You know, some of this is already in Twitter, so you don't have to do this, but having conversations with your data is very is a very interesting topic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I like how you frame it, having conversations with your data rather than having a conversation with the agent or the LLM. It's with the data
I
itself
like that.
and framing it that way.
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it
Yeah.
is.
And absolutely, these things can do a lot. Chair probably heard me talking about that, but I've plugged in an old phone to the Raspberry Pi where Jimmy runs, and asked Jimmy to buy a RAM for another computer that he controls, and so he found a used RAM online, uh, figured out how to get a phone number for the seller, and then communicate over SMS with the seller, and then I just paid for the RAM. So they can generally do anything as long as they have access to enough data, to enough tools. I'm very hesitant to give any access to like email or calendar, all these things to any LLM, just from the perspective of like maybe when I run it locally, like read access will be fine, but like sending it over to Claude or ChatGPT, I'm very hesitant. And then write access in general, when I see what it does with code and running random stuff and deleting stuff completely randomly, I would be very scared to just like
Yeah,
let it run
I had
wild
one
on
delete
my
my
stuff.
entire storage for no reason. It just deleted my whole like drive, and it was, yeah, because I have them connected to my phone, so I can go on like Termius, I think is the name, and there's some other ones now, and I just like tell them what to do when I'm outside. Like every hour, I just like go do this, which is a really bad habit. Like, I feel like this is probably like a form of. This is why people say it's like a form of addiction, because it, you know, it does let you explore things. At the very least, like that is the benefit that you get out of it. You get to explore and do more stuff, but it comes at the cost of like, you can always do that. You can always be more productive now. You just like click a few buttons, start a new chat, and it takes up a lot of your mental space. For local models, yeah, just to open that topic up. So right now, the local models that even a 27 billion parameter model, this could fit on a standard MacBook, like 32 gigabytes. You can run this very comfortably. I feel like that level of intelligence now is good enough for pretty much anything. You can just like set it up, and maybe it's slow on some types of devices, but it can do anything. It can call all the tools. It's logical. It's good at Bash. They can code, and so you could just give them tasks, and they tend to get all the way there. And the Qwen models right now are like the golden standard because they also have vision built in, and they're very good at tool calling. A lot of people are using them in Hermes Agent and in OpenClaw and all these other like little agent systems. And I have not heard a lot of complaints about them besides that they overthink. Uh, the landscape looks really good right now, and you can imagine that like the prices are gonna go up. They have to go up. I know the math of the like GPUs on an open market, which let's say it's twice as expensive to get GPUs on an open market than what OpenAI has access to. If I'm eating 3.6 billion tokens a day, that requires at least 16 GPUs, like very high-end GPUs, running 24/7 just for me, 16 of them. All the electricity, all the cooling, the staffing, because the amount of tokens that's outputting can only be reached with that many GPUs running batching all day, every day. You can't get with 80 tokens a second, which is what I'm getting on $200 a month. Like the math just does not, like I know the math and the math doesn't make sense. So the prices have to go up, or that the data that they're going to get from you is going to be used to influence you in ways that are even worse than them just taking money. So that, like it's one or the other. I think, I jumped in like straight to conspiracy theory mode, but the idea
Cool.
is having local intelligence, even if it's dumb, even if you can get like an 8 billion parameter model and get it running locally, you're teaching yourself how to survive. It's like essentially you're teaching yourself how to survive in the wild. Because there will be a day where you will not get $200 a month subscriptions to spam 24/7, and you will need to spam 24/7 because every business now is saying if you want to hire someone, you better go and use AI, and then prove that you can't use AI, and then you're going to be able to hire someone. So what's going to happen is going to shift from like an end consumer thing, same way that computer chips are shifting now from end consumers to corporations. So corporations purchase the tokens and then distribute them among their workers, and they have a deal with OpenAI or governments. The first proof of that is the United Arab Emirates. They purchased GPT for the whole country. This is like a premonition of what is to come, because the math does not make sense. There is no way that they can make it make sense, and we are only consuming more tokens every single day. So that's the main thesis I have for the next few years.
Okay, so let me repeat it to make sure that I understand. So your hypothesis is that the price of the subscription services that everyone's using, Claude Max, I use Claude Max level 1, so like the $100 one. Your hypothesis is that has to increase given how central these tools are going to be for every corporation and every nation state. And the amount that it burns and the resources that it requires, the price that they are at now just does not make sense. It must rise. So because of this, it would behoove people to learn how to use these models locally on hardware that they control, on RAM that they possess in their actual physical location. Do I have that more or less correct?
That is exactly right. That's exactly right. And this doesn't even touch on all the data stuff. Like there's just so much stuff here that you got to be ready for it. I'm not trying to scare people. I just think that it's the same thing. I would recommend everybody now learn how to start a fire. Like if you don't know how to start a fire, you should learn how to start a fire. There's a chance you're going to have to go into the woods. I know so many people here in Warsaw where I live that were staying in the woods for weeks, if not months, to get out of Russia, like get out of Ukraine during the Russian invasion, because they had to get into Europe, right? But the only way they can get into Europe is either by bribing somebody, by being somebody super important, or going through the woods. That's your options. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but conceptually, like you have to think of this as a core resource that we will need in society, because that's already the case. We already use it in the governments. We already use it in all the corporations. 95% of all companies in the world are using AI. Like this is a report released sometime 2 months ago. That if you just think about what that means, is that you need this technology if you're going to compete in the marketplace. And if you cannot afford this technology, you need to go and find an employer who's willing to give you access to this technology, similar to healthcare. You need to find somebody who's willing to pay that for you. And now you are indebted to this person. You are a slave to this person. This is all like fundamentally true economics in the United States at the very least. Fundamentally true. So we have to start thinking like that and getting conscious of it. And I think that the time is right now, because things are already like in motion from my experience within the industry, because I work with actual corporations that are like leading in this industry now. And this is happening like as of now. Google today started cutting off people. GitHub Copilot removed all the premium models for students, and so they're clamping in on it slowly. They need to make it slow so that you don't have people panicking. Startups that basically say, well, we can make better small models for specific tasks. I think they're trying to avoid that, get into regulatory capture and embed into people. And I don't think this is conscious. They're not evil, maniacs. It's just incentives, right? They have to embed into people that this technology is like some magical thing that requires thousands of GPUs and data centers and billions of dollars, when it's just not true, right? Like their form of it, yes, but we don't need their form of it.
This feels like a fractal of the early internet a little bit. Like the internet between 1990 and 2000, and then like 2002, and then Facebook, and then everything else, and then it ran. It feels like LLMs, local or otherwise, or just usage of it between 2 years ago, maybe even less than 2 years ago, and now was like early internet 1990 to 2002. And that was 2 years. Okay, that's gone. Now we're going into like the corporate version. Go ahead, Vasil.
It's different though. It's slightly different because we see the move in two directions, right? You were not able to run any GPT on your local machine in 2022, right? When they released ChatGPT. The big difference, and then that's the case for, like, you could always run applications on your machine from the internet perspective and connect to other people in some other ways, but it was just inconvenient, so people went to cloud, right? But with LLMs, it's different, because we see this capture and we see the shrinkflation. We already see that Claude, at some points in time, just like your quota just vanishes with a couple prompts that normally take hours to fulfill, right? And so now suddenly the quota is gone because there is a lot of requests or something, and they just like lower down the number of tokens that you can go through with your Claude Max. But the thing is that you can, at the same time, you can just buy these GPUs or Mac Minis, Mac Studios, or you can buy Strix Halo devices or whatever, right? And you can run really good models locally. And that's not, it's like this didn't really happen, because if you wanted fast, big compute, you had to go to cloud, or you have to go to cloud. You're not going to buy a data center. But with these models, you're basically saying, well, you don't have to. Maybe there is a way to run similar level of intelligence locally with slightly lower tokens per second, but with privacy and with sovereignty over your data and over your compute. And I think that's basically like that's an interesting. And so then the push, it can be in two directions, right? It can be very expensive to get to the cloud, but if they make it expensive, then nobody's using it and everybody wants local. But if they want local, prices of GPU goes up, and then we are back into the problem of like, how do we get the GPUs? How much does it cost and things like that. So I think Zero is, what he's saying makes a lot of sense right now, because you can still get reasonably good GPUs and reasonably good machines for a reasonable price. It's expensive, but it's not crazy compared to what you pay for actual API access, right? Mm-hmm. And so as we go, we get better small models and more expensive cloud compute, but also more expensive new GPUs. So it's a weird kind of two-path way.
Well, the whole idea that the problem we have right now is there's just not enough chips. Like, that's the core issue. There just isn't enough chips because there's one company that makes the chips at the speeds that people are expecting these products. It's TSMC. They have like the only machines that can actually make this possible. And so that's the constraint here. And this isn't like something where you can have, you can just like force them to make more. It's like defying the laws of physics to get to get to that level of like that amount of data that you can capture within such a small amount of space is already just astonishing. So realistically, the GPUs that we think we need, this NVIDIA GPUs, these are already reserved for corporations because there is only one producer, and the production of it is extremely expensive, time-consuming, frail. But what's great is that there are other producers of chips that we can run inference on. So an example here is Macs, right? Macs don't have the same bandwidth problem. They have enough production, at least within the United States, to get everybody a Mac Mini, a Mac Studio. They have vertical integration within the entire supply chain. So they can very easily get where they need to be. But the difference there is that while we have MLX and we have GGUF and all these like different quantization methods that make it possible to run models at all on local hardware, a lot of it is just not optimized for Mac, because like really Mac was only started being the AI thing that people think about 2 years ago. And so that's much later than NVIDIA. NVIDIA has been doing AI stuff for a very long time. And so the software layer and the user layer has been optimized a lot on NVIDIA GPUs. And then, if you eat something fancy and then the next day you just eat something meh, you feel really bad about, like not really bad, but you just don't feel, you feel even worse after eating something that's not so great. And that's the same thing where you go and you use a model and you're getting like 80 tokens a second and basically genius level intelligence, at least for a set amount of tokens. And then you go onto your dusty old 5-year-old machine and you get whatever 20 tokens a second. It's doable. It's usable. You just have accustomed yourself to something that is unrealistic at your level of hardware or at your level of income or even space. Now, these 8 GPUs are driving me crazy. They make the air so dry, and the humidity in my room gets down to like 9, and that's 20% of what a human should sit in at any point, because they're so hot. They're basically just evaporating all of the liquid from the air. And I have to sit in here, and it just sucks. It's really unpleasant. And so if you think about that scale, like, you need so much space and money to get what people are using with GPT, which is why I'm just saying, like, just think about the economics of it for a minute, right? If you can't run it at home, then how are you paying $200 a month to get this much usage? It goes back to that.
That makes sense. Can you talk about those 8 rigs for a moment? And 8 rigs, I think RTX 3060, 3090, whatever the numbers
3090s.
are. And
Yeah.
like, what does that scale down to? Like, inspired by Jimmy Claw and Václav's work, I have now unearthed my Raspberry Pi and was ready to unleash it. And then I got some there I had a little bit of pause, because I'm gonna pull up this Carpathy tweet if I am able. Here we are. Because as of yesterday or 2 days ago, this happened, and there was a interesting supply chain attack on a popular Python package that OpenClaw and everyone else, seemingly 97 million downloads, uses. And even though, even in my isolated Pi environment, I thought, well, wait a second, what could this potentially get to? And is it smart to unleash this into my local network right now? And so ultimately I didn't, but I wanted to bring this up, and I think this leads us right to it. How does this affect you personally?
Yeah.
How should we reframe how we're thinking about privacy when using these models, either, seemingly through subscription or locally?
This is like one of the craziest ideas I've had recently, because I have been always like a privacy maxi, because I do believe, like, okay, we should have privacy, but I really don't think there is a way to use these models safely. So you have 2 options. One is deal with them, like, figure out as much as possible what you can do to stop them from going haywire, and like be very conscious of that. And then 2, just fuck it. If I get hacked, I get hacked. If I don't care. You can leak all of my personal information on the internet today, and I've made peace with that being the reality that I can wake up to tomorrow. This is all my browser history, all of my money. I've made peace with the fact that that's what's going to happen, because the competitive advantage of having these models outweighs any kind of risk that I am perceiving. And I think that on a social level too, I just don't think privacy is possible anymore. I think that cat is out the bag, because even if you lock down your house, you lock down everything, you produce so much data points per day. Every interaction, social interaction, every time you leave the house, every time you go on your computer, there are thousands of cameras everywhere in your neighborhood. Even if you're like in the countryside, there are cameras all over the place. So if you leave the house, you're not going to get like 200 meters away from your house before a camera sees you. Now, the traditional problem is we did not have enough processing power to make use of that data. So in the Soviet Union, they had so much data because everybody was basically snitching on each other back in the communist era, right? Everybody was snitching on each other, and they just had mountains and mountains and mountains of documents of like, this person does this and likes this and goes over here at this time of the day. They were just collecting data on everyone, but they can't do anything with it, because how many people do you need to read all this mundane bullshit to get to the point that matters for you? You just cannot do it, right? In any scalable way. So you'd have to reserve all of your intelligence assets to like FBI top 10 list or top 100 list, right? You have to preserve your intelligence for only the cases that are truly problematic. But now you just have these machines that even a 3 billion parameter model can probably tell the difference between my cat and some other cat, me and some other person, right? You can train it to understand everything about me, and you can just have it sit there, and it's basically free because, okay, PayPal connects to my bank. My bank gets their money from the U.S. Treasury. U.S. Treasury is connected to the international banks. International banks are connected to Europe via a bunch of organizations, and all of this is data trails. This is all data that's there, and there's no amount of covering it up. You just cannot cover it up. The people that are like, oh well, I'm doing tax evasion. Yes, and the government knows about you, and you're just not enough of a priority right now because the cost of employing somebody to bother you is greater than the cost of what you would get them if they did pursue you. So now, if you introduce AI agents to the mix and infinite compute, right? Infinite compute here being let's take 27 billion parameter multimodal models and let's stick them on trillions of data points from whatever company named here, Palantir, Facebook, Google, because they all have all the data, right? They have all of it. Every one of us is already detailed. I would recommend everybody do this exercise. Go into the Grok chat on Twitter. No, go onto your profile on Twitter, click the Grok button, and say, psychoanalyze this person and make as much assumptions about their life as possible. And watch it come back to you with information you didn't even know is online. It can tell you where in the world you are just from your posting patterns. And I'm semi-anonymous online. My real name is there. You can find it, but it's not super clear. And it knows everything about me. American-born, whatever, North African descent. It posts about these times in the day, has 2 kids, lives in Europe, by these pictures, traveled to Japan at this time. Like, it just knows everything about you because it just requires pointing intelligence at the data that exists, right? So I hope that's clear. I think we need to, if I can give radical advice to people that's probably very harmful, I think we should all just consider ourselves already publicly identified and leaked and stop worrying about it because it's just a waste of time.
I more or less agree. I would say, it's an interesting one. Actually, psychoanalyzing is my next thing. Or go ahead, somebody do it for me, and post the results in the chat. It's an interesting thing. There's so much science fiction. There's an abundance of science fiction novels for the past 100 years that can prepare us for the reality now, or I guess how to operate within it without. But it's an interesting in these generations that straddle both sides. It's certainly been very interesting. But then, like, Generation Alpha is going to have no expectation of anything really, of privacy or anything else in this world, and that's an interesting paradigm. I see you have. I'm trying to get off of my screen. Oh, I don't see it anymore. Sarah, you had for a moment your rig set up. Oh, I see it. Psychoanalyze and track this person's CIA style.
Yeah, I think it's super important for us to see like what they already know about each one of us. That for me is like a form of a signal on like how much do they already know about me. And surprisingly, it is like too much, to be honest with you. It's like, it's very uncomfortable. This is the rig here.
Boom. And that is the 8 RTX 3090s.
Yeah, and now I have like a bunch of other ones coming in. A bunch of people gave me like computers, and I have gotten from NVIDIA like credits, and like just a whole bunch of people gave me access to compute. I'm gonna buy more, and I'm just gonna keep stacking it like I stacked Bitcoin, like I stack, any kind of gold, anything that has value. This has value. Clearly, they're fighting over it.
Just move it to a different room.
Yeah. How do you power it? How do you get electricity to this thing? We don't have that much power on the like European circuit. You have to significantly like disrupt. You have to cap it to 1/4 of its full potential because your circuit can't handle it. Even if you install another circuit, you still can't get it up like full. It's crazy.
What is the entry like? Obviously, you're running a let's say above beginner level rig setup. How out of touch am I in thinking that a Raspberry Pi is going to give me any sort of useful day-to-day use?
Not out of touch. There's liquid AI. They have a model that's 2 billion parameters that runs well on a Raspberry Pi. The Qwen3.5-27B runs really well. You know, that's probably the, okay, I actually can't, okay. That's one of the most used models for a business that does inference, is Llama 8B, because people use it for mass tagging of data. They just, here's like data, tag it, right? A lot of businesses benefit from mass tagging of data that you just don't know about. So you can get a lot of use out of it. We just don't know that we can get so much use out of them. We're just completely unaware.
You can also, I think you can also run a 4 billion model on an 8 gig Raspberry Pi, and it will give you something around like 10 tokens per second, which is not great, but not terrible. Like depending, like I don't think agent usage will be great, but just having it there as a local model, I've tried. I've by mistake touched the processor after doing this, and it left a pretty big blister. But so don't do that. But other than that, it's kind of usable, but obviously not for something complex. It's not gonna.
Have you used Minimax? You've used Minimax, right?
Yeah, I'm using the next through Venice AI. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to show you this picture. Second. Sorry, way too much. With Minimax, we have this here. So this shows you 3 things: the speed of the model, the intelligence of the model, and the so there's depth and then there's breadth. So the breadth of the model. So the model Qwen3.5-27B is like almost 3 times more intelligent than Minimax if you give it the right combination of tokens, because per token it's activating 2.7 times more parameters, and that's 2.7 times more statistical data that is decompressed essentially into the output. So this is a very smart model that can run on any MacBook. And I think this is probably going to be smarter for you than models that are like 20 times its size, because the active parameters was optimized. And I really think that Qwen, the Qwen people, they did this as an incredible act of kindness, because there's this thing called the chinchilla coefficient, I think is the right word. It's like you have a model that has some amount of parameters. How many tokens is it supposed to see for it to be trained efficiently and effectively? The wall is 20 times more tokens than parameters. So if it's a 1 billion parameter model, you want to show it at the very least, the optimal amount, not at the very least, the optimal amount to show it is 20 billion tokens. If you have a 1 trillion parameter model, the optimal amount is 20 trillion tokens. This model here was trained probably on 4 trillion tokens. So the amount of time that they poured to get this thing out is wild, like crazy. And there's no reason for them to do this, because it serves no business function for them. But this is an incredible act of kindness. I think people should look at this and try it out and spend some time with it. It's going to be a downgrade, but spend time with it so that you can see what there is. What can you realistically afford is the great question. If you go to a car, the car venue, you want to buy a car, you're not going to go to the Ferrari. You're just going to go find the bumpy car that you can pay for, and you're going to try those out. So you should try those out. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. And I'm this comparing to what Chair said about like trying to run something on Raspberry Pi. This is obviously more expensive, but I've ordered a Strix Halo machine, something around $2,000, and it should arrive tomorrow. So this is definitely one of the models that I want to try on it, because I've seen other posts from other people praising the 27B model from Qwen3.5, from Qwen, the 3.5-27. Seemingly, it was outcompeting a lot of models, obviously slower, but the quality of the output is way better. And so if you can run it, if you can keep it running it via an agent or something overnight, this is just amazing.
130.90. You can have.
But yeah, I did
like $700 if you're patient. You can get this running for $700 at maybe like 20 tokens a second, 30 tokens a second, maybe if you min max it.
That's a problem with following you, because I cannot stop thinking about buying a GPU, but I have nowhere to plug it. So now I have to think about where do I plug it, and it's just like that's why I bought the Strix Halo machine, because it's just a machine that I can just put into electricity.
You have okay, then a bad influence. So there's a company called Exo Labs, and they have the RDMA, like the RDMA connection to do tensor parallelism between different MacBooks, which is good technology, speeds it up. But they also saw that if you have a NVIDIA card, you can plug it in like via, I don't know, like it's not a USB-C. There is like a cable that you can plug it into a Mac.
Thunderbolt or Link, yeah.
Yes, so you can plug it into a Mac like externally, and you basically do pre-fill on the NVIDIA or like both. So you move basically between the two, and you can get like a significant speed up. The physical limit, the scientific limit of the tokens a second you can get is nowhere close to what we're getting. That's the piece. Like there's just not enough people developing and optimizing. The physical ceiling is probably like 5 times away from where we currently are. So could we get to 3 times? Could we get like 3 times away? Does that make sense?
I mean, it does make sense. It's just another time sink that we need to accept, I guess.
I have to go in 4 minutes. Any questions? Sorry, my kids.
All good, completely understandable. Václav, if you can hang out for a little bit post Ciro leaving,
sure.
we'll wrap it then. But Václav, any final queries for Ciro from you?
I think I know the answer, but I want to know what you are the most excited about today and for like upcoming, let's say a week or a month or something like that. Like what you are working on that you want to finish and show and get people excited about as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to get this like paper implemented by Google. I'm just crunching on it, and I can kind of get it working, but it's not like to the level of quality that I want it yet. That's supposed to cut down the size of like the KV cache by 70%, give or take, and give us a speed boost. And I want to get it into VLLM. So VLLM is like an inferencing engine that's just very fast compared to everything else. So that's one thing. So making models fit on smaller hardware, that's practically all I've been trying to do, because I have this much GPUs. I don't want more, and I need to figure out how to get like the smart things on it. What else? I have like all of these like things that I use daily, the VLM Studio, and then the Parchi controls the browser. I really like this thing. Can you tell me what's on the screen? So I built this because I love this, right? I love this, just to like go read stuff, research stuff for me, do stuff for me. It's amazing. It's so cool. I don't have to look at AWS settings, IAM, whatever. I have some issues here, but I will, because I'm constantly working on it.
Is it like an extension, or?
Yeah, it's just a browser extension, and it is incredible what these things can do. So I'm excited about this because I've been using it every day. but I'm also constantly building with it, and so I'm breaking things all the time. The production version is stable, and you can probably use it. What else am I excited? I think that's it. That's it for the future. I am very excited for a time where whatever you want to happen, you just send a prompt and you come back to it in a few hours, and it's there. Automating yourself is the most exciting thing. Like getting to walk away from the screen eventually, because I am ultimately a worker. I have to work to survive. That sucks, right? It is what it is, but it does suck. It would be great not to have to work to survive anymore. So if you can automate yourself like pretty accurately, I think it could work, because it's valuable. People would pay money for an AI version if you're good at what you do and you can get the AI to be consistent. People would pay for your own custom built, like over 10 years clone.
We live in amazing times.
Sense?
Yeah. Definitely. Sierra, I don't want to keep you too long. I know you have small children waiting for you, so please don't let us keep you. But anytime that you would like to come back to the Dev Club, we'd love to have you, be it tomorrow or next week or next month or whenever. There's an open seat for you here, so I'll come bugging you imminently to come back on again, share whatever the latest
thing
is.
Thank you.
But thank you for being here. That is 0x0. Follow him on X. Follow his YouTube channel, his various writings and research and videos across all of the platforms. I cannot recommend it enough. And I have had the privilege of meeting Ciro in person. He's a nice human being, and I am.
Thank you, guys.
Very excited to have had you. Thank you for being here. I'll pester Václav a little bit now.
Thanks for the insights.
All right, Václav, here is what I'm burning on the most, and I think we can weave it together nicely enough.
For sure.
Boom. That's not a great view. How about this? That's better. So there was a horrifying breach of, or a horrifying supply chain attack that happened about 24 hours ago. This is Andre Karpathy, talking about it. Basically, a very popular Python package that was used by basically like 100 million downloads or close to it was attacked, compromised, malware delivered, and anyone who has this package downloaded locally is now risking all of their credentials, SSH keys, Solana keys, etc. You come from the Kubernetes and container-driven development world, which has had a lot of the same. Is that not true?
No, it is true. I'll let you finish. I might disagree with the assumptions, but
well, I would say like these are problems that I think I'm making a lot of assumptions at this point, but these supply chain style attacks, all I can do is assume these supply chain style of attacks through in the container world, it's sort of been the reality for, I don't know, 10 years or more. How do you, I mean, we heard how Ciro approaches it. Privacy is gone. Assume you are hacked. Assume that everyone knows or is going to know everything and operate as such. How do you approach it? What is your personal perspective on it, and how do you try to protect your privacy as you operate these models?
Okay, so first of all, this is an unsolved problem anywhere, and funnily enough, I was member of two teams in two separate projects at Red Hat who were trying to solve this. How the hell do you know which package and which version to install for it to be secure and performant and all that stuff? Due to various reasons, we were not able to finish the project, and so it's still an unsolved problem. There are companies that are building this, that are doing the verification of things and hardening the pipelines and signing and stuff like that. The problem with us here is that we are trying to move super fast, and we also do not verify anything, right? So we say don't trust, verify, but then we don't verify, right? So the idea is that you would probably not automatically install the latest version of the package once it's released. You will wait for a bit before you like are sure that it works, that it doesn't break anything, that it's hopefully safe, that it has some audits or some verifications. And then you also pin all the versions, so it's not like you install OpenClaw or whatever and it just installs anything that is latest. You want to pin to specific versions so that you know what you are installing and you have the log files and everything. So this is a problem. It's been eating software engineering and infrastructure for last, I don't know, 20 years, right? It's not new, and it doesn't seem like it's going away. Even with all the intelligence that we have with LLMs, like it's not going away. Nobody cares. Maybe now people will, but I don't know. I don't think so.
Or not enough people care enough, or
Yeah.
it's not profitable enough to care about it to the point where people care about it
That's
multiple
this
hours
is
a
the
day.
problem, because the problem is that to do it right is to, when there is a new version of package, you have to be sure that it's produced by whoever tells you it's produced. It's the same thing as with the Bybit hack. We've talked about that on the streams multiple times. It's the same thing. Someone is able to publish a malicious package into somewhere, right? How is that possible? Because everything should be signed. We all understand that there should be two-factor authentication. We all understand that you're not supposed to use whatever has been published by someone else that has not been verified. But we all do that, me included. I just took the Raspberry Pi, I installed OpenClaw, I haven't looked at anything, and then at one point I just updated it. One thing I have learned is that when you update stuff too often, it's gonna break, and I hate fixing things that I have not, like, I hate fixing other people's breakages. I love fixing mine, but I hate if someone else breaks my stuff, right? So I don't update every day. I update when I'm like, okay, this is getting weird. I'm gonna update. And so I obviously could suffer from older security issues, but I won't suffer these things, hopefully, because I update too late, at least for some cases. So the problem is that it is solvable, but it's gonna slow down everything. So if you ask me for a new feature in Logos Core, and I tell you I can implement the feature in 5 minutes, but it's gonna take 2 weeks before you get it because it has to go through the process, you're gonna say no, right?
Huh? Wait.
If
Say it again.
sorry, I saw the message. If I tell you I can get this feature for you in Logos Core in 5 minutes, but it's gonna take 2 weeks for you to get it because it has to go through the packaging process and the verification process, you'll be like, just let's
No,
do
I
it
would
on the
say
side.
yes. We'll do it.
No,
No,
you
I would
will
say
not.
do it, please.
No.
If it's a constant rolling if it's only 2 weeks, maybe I'm nitpicking, but I would say yes, please. 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
what are you working on with Jimmy now, if anything? And if not, what are you looking forward to given what we have learned from Zero today?
Yeah. So the thing that I want to do with the machine that arrives hopefully tomorrow, I'm still keeping my fingers crossed because you can never be sure, is that I want to set up another agent. And so I talk about Jimmy as my AI intern. And so this will be Jimmy's AI intern. So Jimmy is promoted to a manager and he will have an intern. And I want to try this thing where I go high level with Jimmy and then he instructs the other agent. And then I could add more agents hopefully in the future and see if that actually works. I want to try Hermes agent. Hermes agent? I don't know how it's pronounced. Because that's apparently better at learning stuff and like keeping the skills. So I want to try that. And what Jimmy is working on now, he is deep into the LEZ, the Logos Execution Zone again, and a spell framework for building programs on Logos Execution Zone, but also building Logos Core Basecamp applications. So building a bunch of modules, trying to figure out how to do this. And then we have this scaffold. And I don't know if Chair already shared the video from Sasha about it, but scaffold is kind of the idea of it is to be an entry point into Logos tech stack so that you can quickly bootstrap and start a new project. And so we are doing kind of a planning for what's next for Scaffold and how to build it into something more useful. Because right now it only kind of supports the LEZ. If you want to build a program on Logos Execution Zone, you can bootstrap it as Scaffold. But what about Logos core modules? What about UI applications? How do we all connect it together? Adding maybe some kind of a wizard like stuff where you can say, oh, I want to use storage, I want to use messaging, I want to build programs. So these things. And obviously, Jimmy is still working on his LMAO project, Logos module for agent orchestration. I have not tried it yet. I didn't have time for that, so I need to look into it.
Oh, is that
But
what
it
is that
actually
what it
works.
stands for? I just thought it was
Yeah,
laughing my ass off.
no, it's Logos module for agent orchestration. And the idea is something that actually it's funny because I see it now everywhere for some reason. After Andrei Karpatis, who you mentioned, talked in some podcast, he's like, well, and now we will have this like SETI at home style network of AI agents communicating and giving each other's tasks. And this is exactly what LMAO is. You would use decentralized technologies like Logos messaging, Logos storage, and status network or Logos blockchain to distribute tasks between agents that are offering their compute, basically. And then they get paid, and they can cover their own kind of costs, and they can communicate in decentralized manner, and you can potentially do bigger stuff, because if you have one small GPU, maybe you can't do all the compute, but if you can distribute that over many GPUs, chunk it into small tasks, and then bring it back together, that would be interesting.
Yeah, like intuitively, the first thing that pops to mind is like the checking of the work over those distributed GPUs. Like Jimmy, for
It's
example, having to audit everything that's coming back to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the solved problem. And this is, I'm really taking it as just as a fun prototype, not as a solution to a final problem. But the question is like, can you have some verifiability eventually? Maybe. How do you measure quality of the output? So how do you grade the agents? Like if they return you garbage, you will never use them again. But if they return great results for whatever cost you estimate is good, you will probably want to use them again. So how do you do ranking or reviews or whatever, right? So the agents need to rank each other. And yeah, obviously you may end up in just having a lot of code and a lot of security issues brought back in from a ton of other agents. So I don't know how it's going to work, but it's something that people are very excited about, what Andrei Karpati mentioned. And we've been looking into it with Jimmy for the last 4 weeks, basically, just completely unrelated, but it's something that is very obvious. Like, for example, if you look at the status, right? Every other messaging platform, they have some abstraction for bots, right? Like if you go to Telegram, there is a father bot account that you have to talk to kind of to get the account key for your bot. If you go to WhatsApp, there is a process. If you go to anything else, there is a process. But for status, an agent or a bot is a full-blown account, full-blown user of the platform,
First
and
class
that gives
user.
you so many more options, right? And so the decentralized technologies make this very interesting, and like I think we will see a lot of autonomous agents roaming around internet, especially as they get more reliable in a sense, right? Because right now they can go into loops and off the rails of the guidelines.
Yeah. Yes, they can. To answer your question about Scaffold, we did play it on an earlier stream a few weeks ago. We are going to play it again soon. It will be posted as a video on the Logos Network YouTube channel very soon. We also have a second dev club today if you're in Europe or America and most of Asia, but tomorrow if you're in Australia, as the fearless Frank Royer will be with us, and we will go over Scaffold as well as all of the other demo, like proof of concept slash demo apps that already exist for Logos Basecamp and testnet v0.1. And we'll also be getting into running a node on testnet v0.1. But I think the three major things that exist at this point are the multisig, the LEZ multisig that Jimmy built, the logo scaffold demo, aforementioned from Sasha, as well as the atomic swaps demo from Donish, which has not seen the light of day yet, but will very soon. At least not publicly. It has seen the light of day. It's alive. It might even be dead at this point, but it has not been broadcast. Is the point? You with me? Thank you. Any final thoughts of Václav before we wind this one down? Folks, you can find Václav at V Pavlin. That is V as in Victor, or V as in Václav, Pavlin on X. You can find Jimmy also, all of the work that Jimmy is doing via that account. Václav, are you done traveling or just about to travel to these conferences coming up here? Looks like you're at home.
I am done traveling for next month, I think.
Oh,
The
nice.
East Prague and East Cluj are in May. So I'll be at East Prague. I have a workshop specifically about LMAO. And then I have a presentation about LMAO, and then I have a workshop at East Cluj about YOLO. Your own local opinion, I think we called it, Jimmy, and it's going to be kind of like a blog board posting, decentralized in Basecamp. We have a very small prototype, not fully working yet. But the goal is to have it as a workshop so that people can actually build it on the spot and start posting to Logos blockchain and Logos storage. Hopefully it works. I don't know. We'll see. But plenty of time to prepare that, right?
Yeah. A whole month, more than a month.
Yeah.
One
all I
thing
need
I
is
want
for all
to
these
impress-
other things to work.
We just
Yeah.
need all these other things to work.
Sorry, one last thing I want to definitely say is the office hours. Oh, that's what you're showing.
That is exactly what I wanted to go to.
Because I saw the calendar, I'm like, I have to mention office hours.
Yeah, office hours this Friday with Václav. Anything specific you want to mention while we're here?
I want to mention that I am not a speaker there.
Oh,
I'm just a facilitator. It's the idea of office hours is not that I come there and I talk. The idea is that people come and people ask and people talk about their projects and people ask questions that if you guys are going to join these things, please send those questions up front if they are very specific about very specific parts that I may not understand or may not understand yet. And so then you can come and ask and I can give you answer, or I can get you people that can give you answers. The idea of office hours is that if you want to know anything about Logos tech stack and you don't want to ask on Discord or you don't want to ask publicly, you can just go there and you can ask me or anyone else that I can bring for you to discuss whatever is burning you about the technological stack. I mean, it doesn't have to be technology, but usually we focus on technology.
so that is office hours. It is every Friday for, I don't know, the extended future, especially as with the Encode bootcamp pops off and people will be learning more about the Logos technology stack, the testnet, the Basecamp application, the modules, how to use them, how to integrate them into your own things, how to integrate your own things into Logos Basecamp in every direction. Use these office hours. I will be there as well, mostly just bloviating and propping people up. And as Václav mentioned, the speaker tag, it's just the default tag on this site. Really is the facilitator. And so bring all of your questions, come talk to some humans. That is every single Friday, Logos office hours. The Encode Bootcamp, as I mentioned just a moment ago, is also next month. So look out for those posts on socials. Find the sign up page. Do sign up. There's a lot going on, folks. Too much for me to mention all in one bloviation even, but the Logos Builders Hub is live at build.logos.co. That is where you should go. Every direction that you can travel in is available there, or just logos.co. Make sure that you are signed up for the newsletters and for updates. And if you are technically minded about local first private software that is less pwnable, then Logos is for you. I am Chair. I'm here to prop you up. That is Václav. He is a real engineer and a real technologist. I am just a chair. Anything before I let our audience off of the leash and back out into their day?
No, because if I start talking, I'll just won't be able to finish again. So don't get me started.
Folks, he is Václav. The tech is Logos. All the information is at logos.co, build.logos.co. Thank you once again to 0x0. We look forward to having him on again as much as he would like to. And as we finish, as we always do, I tell you, todo es mentira desde el mundo. Todo es mentira la verdad. The world is a lie, and that lie is the truth. This was Logos Dev Club. We'll see you in just a few hours with Frank for some testnet v0.1 fun. Until then, take care of yourself. Goodbye.